Yesterday's game was practically over for the White Sox after the second inning. Just another example of how bad things are going for the Sox this season. Let's discuss more on the Sox getting crushed in Canada next on Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong White Sox fan and the site expert of Southside Showdown, part of the Fansided Network. You can check out my written content at southsideshowdown.com. Also, I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox. Smash the like button and also follow or subscribe to the show on wherever you get your podcasts and leave a 5-star review. Well, the White Sox were blown out by the Blue Jays in the series finale 9-2. 9 runs, 9 times. Ferris Bueller reference for those in the younger portion of our demographic. Rookie Nick Nastrini had a rough outing in his return to the big leagues, and the game was over rather early. So I'll talk about what exactly doomed Nick and how this latest loss is just another example of how bad this season is going and how tough it is to watch these games. And then let's talk about what to watch for when the Sox take on the Orioles in a 4-game set. Finally, I didn't do way back Wednesday, so let's do it on a Thursday. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Now, Nick Nastrini was not effective at all in his first start back with the big league club. He was recalled to take the spot of Brad Keller in the rotation as Brad Keller was designated for assignment. And Pedro Grifol confirmed before the game that Nastrini is now up for the long term. Well, hopefully he doesn't pitch like he did last night. He gave up 7 runs in the second inning, and all 7 runs came with 2 outs. Ouch. Command was an issue for Nastrini, especially in the second as he kicked off the inning with a walk to Justin Turner. In between getting 2 outs, he just could not make that out pitch when the count was in his favor. Yep, that is what made the inning even harder to watch, as Nastrini had a 1-2 count on Alejandro Kirk, and he smashed a slider for a single. He had an 0-2 count on Kiermaier. He smashes a single. So now you got bases loaded. He did not have the count in his favor, though, when Schneider singled to left. That drove in 2 runs. But he did have a 1-2 count when Varsho, who has destroyed the Sox this series, hit a base-clearing triple. Had a 1-1 count on Vladimir Guerrero Jr. when he drove in Varsho. Then he had a 1-2 count on Bo Bichette. And Bo Bichette crushed a home run to deep center. Now, some of that could be Nastrini was tipping his pitches. Sox Machine had a good piece about that after the game. That could be the case. And if he was, somebody on the coaching staff has to point that out. Or Martin Maldonado, somebody has to point that out. You know, Michael Kopech had that issue last year, and no one said a thing to him. Now, obviously, he made the adjustment, but again, it's those little things that the Sox don't do well. And we're going to get to that in just about a minute or two. Also, the pitch sequence was not great. Martin Maldonado is supposed to be this great game caller. And, well, at least in that inning, just like his hitting, he was not good at all. Just another example of what does Martin Maldonado do here. For example, Kiermaier's single. Nastrini threw a really good changeup to get, if I recall, strike 1. And Maldonado called for another changeup. And Nastrini threw it to the exact same spot. I wonder why that went for a hit. I wonder how a professional hitter who sees the same exact pitch in the same exact location can be like, you know what? That's a changeup. So maybe it wasn't exactly tipping. Maybe it was just like, really, you're going here again? Schneider's RBI single, all four seam fastballs. And Nastrini, yeah, he can get it up to 95, 96, but you don't want to just be pounding four seam fastballs because that's usually when the most mistakes happen on that type of pitch. The numbers are saying that. Now, it doesn't mean you just don't throw a four seam fastball, but maybe you don't, unless you can ratchet it up at 100 miles an hour, don't throw it four times in a row. And as Gordon Beckham observed on the television call, who I think Beckham did a pretty good job filling in for Steve Stone, if you're going to call for Nasrini's off-speed stuff, put it on the corners, not any place over the plate where the ball can be smashed. The ball's got to be either on the outside or the inside. And not being technically sound, things like that was one of the many reasons why watching last night's game was just a brutal experience. Now, we knew the season was going to be bad. But the ask was, play a brand of baseball where the team is competitive and doesn't look like a blooper reel on most nights. Well, unless Eric Fetty or Garrett Crochet is on the mound, this team is rarely competitive. That's one of the other reasons why this was just another example of why this team has just been so hard to watch this year. And hey, I'm doing it for you guys. But again, the technically sound, which is the T in Pedro Grifol's FAST acronym, yeah, that wasn't on display, especially in the fourth inning. Jays pick up two more runs. One of them came on Dominic Fletcher's throwing error to third. Even more annoying, Nastrini isn't backing up third. No one's backing up third. So Bichette easily gets in a second. Now, thankfully, the Sox got out of the inning, but how many times have we seen the Sox make a bad throw, whether they don't hit the cutoff man or they do a throwing error, and the trailing runner gets into scoring position, and that eventually turns into a run? It's been more times that has happened this season than not. I think that was the thing that was just bothering me the most last night. And I don't know if it was bothering you, unless you're trusting me to watch the game, then I'll tell you. That was the most bothering thing. These just not doing the little things right. It would be nice to see this team at least do the technically sound. And they can't do that. Also, it's frustrating to watch this team waste time on the likes of Brad Keller. Okay, Nastrini got shelled. It's going to help him grow. He even said it after the game. Pedro said it after the game. This is the type of experience for him to see, okay, maybe was I tipping my pitches? Let's look at the film. What was I missing on? What do I need to do better? Something is gained if Nick Nastrini gives up 9 runs. It'll help, hopefully, in the long run. Hopefully he is what we hope he can be, and that is a very solid number 3, number 4 pitcher on team friendly on team control. But nothing was gained by wasting almost a month of trying to see if Brad Keller can be it, or trying to hope Chris Flexen will build up trade value, which he did briefly. Don't know about right now. Seeing if Michael Soroka can get through it. Giving Mike Clevenger starts. We wasted time. We're already wasting time this season. We already knew it wasn't going to be competitive. So why not give Nick Nastrini, you should have kept him up. Give him his opportunities. Let him learn. He could have been beyond this, giving up runs, tipping pitches, all that stuff, trying to figure out how to bounce back. He could have been further advanced. Nothing was gained with Brad Keller in the rotation. I think that is the thing that frustrates me the most. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Well, hey, On to the next series. And it does not get any easier as the Baltimore Orioles come to town for a 4-game set. Let's discuss some storylines or what to watch or keys next on Locked On White Sox. Hey, there's no better way to enjoy baseball than at the ballpark. You can actually appreciate just how talented these players are and just how impressive a home run is live. And I want to make sure I get the best deal possible on tickets when I go to the park, and that's why I'm always monitoring the Game Time app. I got my eye on seeing if I can get a good deal on when the Dodgers or Braves come to Guaranteed Rate Field, and I'm ready for the prices to go down the closer it gets to first pitch. That's right, with Game Time, you can save typically up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. And what I really like about the Game Time app is that panoramic view of from your seat in the app before you buy. You can kind of see, do I have a good view? Where, how high am I going to be? All that type of stuff. They give you that on the app. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use Locked On MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. And it's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. And hey, speaking of spreads, the White Sox are a plus 1.5 tonight against the Orioles, and the over-under is 8.5, at least as of this recording. Mike Clevenger is on the mound, so I would go the over on Baltimore. And you want to make tonight's Pacers versus Celtics game a little bit more entertaining to watch, I'd suggest pounding those player props and after maybe locking in the over at 225. Visit fanduel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest sports stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the White Sox start a 4-game series with the Baltimore Orioles tonight. First pitch is at 6:40 Central. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. And welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I am your host, Todd Welter, and thank you for making the show your first listen. Lots of great White Sox podcasts out there. I just ask that you make me your first listen. And make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox. Smash the like button and also follow or subscribe to the show on wherever you get your podcasts. And hey, leave a 5-star review. Well, the Baltimore Orioles coming to town for a 4-game set, and the schedule gods have smiled upon them. They come in losers of 3 straight and 4 of their past 5 games. The Orioles got swept by the St. Louis Cardinals and their anemic offense, so maybe there's hope for the White Sox because if the Cardinals can get a sweep, maybe the Sox and their bad offense can come through. They also have some hope as Eric Fetty and Garrett Crochet are slated to schedule this weekend. But the biggest storyline to watch tonight is, can the Sox avoid continuing the trend of being a get-right team? Toronto hadn't won a series since April, and Bo Bichette was struggling. But hey, they play the White Sox, and suddenly those problems are gone. And as you see, the Orioles are coming in. They got swept by St. Louis. Get right time. The other thing to hope for is, can the Sox be competitive against a top-tier team without Fetty or Crochet on the mound? Against the Yankees in the Bronx, the Sox had Clevenger and Flexen throwing, along with Brad Keller, who I just ranted on about in the last segment. And the Sox got smoked in that series. And it seems the latest trend is if Crochet or Fetty are not on the mound, the Sox have no hope of being competitive, or at least no chance of winning. Clevenger is not giving, he's not getting deep into games right now. Granted, he's again still working his way back into being able to take a long workload. Chris Flexen again was amazing against Tampa. He had a stretch of 3 starts, but 2 of them against Tampa where he was really good. But really, he's been looking more of the a mix between a guy who was demoted to the bullpen early in the season and a guy who might be okay some nights. But again, at least thankfully, Fetty and Crochet are pitching Saturday and Sunday. The biggest thing is, though, how does the Sox pitching keep the Orioles from launching the ball out of the park? Baltimore is second in the league in home runs and tops in slugging percentage. And Gunnar Henderson, he's crushing the ball. He's got 16 home runs this season. And Baltimore's offense averages nearly 5 runs per game. And they're playing at Guaranteed Rate Field, a homer-friendly ballpark. Maybe the wind will be blowing in all 4 days. Won't affect the White Sox. They don't hit that many home runs to begin with. And also Eloy Jimenez, yeah, he's on the 10-day IL with that hamstring injury. So maybe nature will help the White Sox. And also, if you do want to see a team that is technically sound in the field, watch Baltimore. They have the highest team fielding percentage and the least amount of errors in baseball. Maybe Pedro will take some notes. And the biggest thing is, because he's been a storyline because he's been called a consistent pillar of the lineup, how much of the Sox play Andrew Benintendi? Baltimore's throwing righties out there all week or all weekend in this series. So do you keep this rotted pillar out, keep trotting him out? So they played him yesterday, and guess what? Ofer. Or do you go with the youth and Dominic Fletcher and Nick DeLoach, who both hit left-handed, and you're going to need some lefties in the lineup if you're going against some righties. And DeLoach, he's up with the club. He was the corresponding move when Eloy went on the IL. I would actually suggest going with DeLoach and Julks. One reason, DeLoach gets on base. Drew a walk last night. He has I have it on Southside Showdown, his numbers. Has a really good career on base percentage in the minors. And Julks, he's the right-handed bat that's on a heater. This is the perfect series to sort of have Benintendi work in the cage during the game and then try to find that bullpen matchup late in the game to pitch hit him and see if that can jumpstart his confidence. Because, again, he looks lost out there. I think you got to play Tommy Pham. Obviously, with Eloy on the IL, you don't have to worry about Gavin Sheets playing in right field. You can play him either at first or DH, which they played Sheets last night at first. Andrew Vaughn got the night off. That's another thing. Can he, he was starting to get going. Didn't have the greatest series in Toronto. They need him to start producing. I declared the slump over for Vaughn, and it might still be going. The Andrews are another reason why this season, it's just been really tough to watch because the Andrews have been not struggling. They've just been playing out bad. Well, I did not get to way back Wednesday yesterday with everything that needed to be discussed. So let's do a throwback Thursday or way back Wednesday on a Thursday. Either way, let's go back in time. And since the Sox are in line for another 100 losses this season, let's look back at where this team was a year ago and in 2018 when both of those teams were equally as bad. See if there's some differences and similarities. Next, Locked On White Sox. And Prize Picks is really simple to play. You can make your picks and submit an entry in less than 60 seconds. And if your skill is picking more or less, you can turn $10 into $100 with just a few taps. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. You just pick more or less on two or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. A sneaky more or less pick you can make tonight is going more on Danny Mendick or Zach Remelard's .5 total bases. I say or because you want to make sure one of them is in the lineup before making that selection. And then going more on the 1.5 hits / runs / RBIs on Tommy Pham. But again, make sure he's in the lineup tonight. He's been hitting the cover off the ball, but as I've said in the previous segment, the Sox have plenty of options in the outfield tonight. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. And the White Sox start a 4-game series with the Baltimore Orioles. First pitch is at 6:40 p.m. Central. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with Sirius XM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. And thanks for sticking with me through this show. Always appreciate you everydayers. Sorry, coffee sip, as you know. If you're an everydayer, you know I love my coffee. For those not watching on YouTube, I went with the Marquette mug. But normally I do way back Wednesdays too if you're an everydayer. But there was just so much to discuss yesterday that I bumped it to today. So if you want to call it Throwback Thursday or Way Back Wednesday, let's go back to when times were better, although not today. Because I kind of want to do a comparison of where are the White Sox in comparison to the 2018 and the 2023 team. You know, both teams that lost 100 games. And the Sox have now played 50 games, and they are 15-35. They are the worst team in baseball, and it's one of the worst records through 50 games in team history. Fangraphs projects the Sox to go 46-66 the rest of the way for a 61-101 finish. Another 100 losses, folks. I thought the standard was you improve after you've hit rock bottom. Not the White Sox. They find ways to keep digging. So where, and again, in 2018, the Sox lost 100 games. 2023, they lost 101. So where were those teams after 50 games? Well, in 2018, the Sox were 16-34. Last year's team was 20-30. In fact, last year's team finished 15-14 in May after that 7-20 start to finish after that 7-20 start in April. And they would actually reach third place on June 8th with a 28-35 record. And then everything went downhill from there. May was a terrible month for the 2018 White Sox as they went 8-19 that month. But here's the thing. After 50 games, neither of those teams were in dead last in the AL Central. That's because those teams always had the Kansas City Royals, who were even worse behind them. And there's a key difference right there. The Royals are good this year. I mean, they look legit. They look like they have staying power. This doesn't look like a trend of, hey, they got to a great start, but they'll eventually fade. Heck, they're not even in the same company when it comes to spending with the White Sox anymore. The Royals signed a player to a contract over $100 million when they extended Bobby Witt Jr. $100 million, the going rate for good to elite talent. That's the money you pay. Those are the players that you extend, that you develop, or you pay on the free agent market. Remember, the White Sox richest free agent contract is still Andrew Benintendi, who has the worst OPS in baseball right now. Money well spent. And not only that, you can't really say right now the AL Central is just absolutely awful like it was last year, because the Guardians are good and the Twins and the Tigers are at least meh. In 2018 and last year, you could say, well, at least you got the Royals that are absolutely awful, but not this year. The Sox are the only team in the division you can point to and say that is a terrible baseball team. There's no one to share in the misery. And the Sox, they're already 18 games back. In 2023, after 50 games, they were still 5.5 games back. And in 2018, they were 9.5 games back. No wonder why this team was given a .01 chance of making the playoffs. And in games decided by 5 or more runs, now this was the total. In 2018, the Sox were 17-38. So in 2018, the Sox were basically blown out 38 times. In 2023, they were 15-29. So blown out 29 times. This year, the Sox are halfway towards at least matching that 2023 team in the loss column, as they've been blown out 15 times this season. And even when it comes to tight games, that's on the flip side. The Sox are at least trending towards maybe doing well. They're 5-8 this year in one-run games. In 2023, the Sox finished 19-39 in a single-run games, and in 2018, they were 15-25. So the Sox have no one to share the awfulness with, like they did in 2018 and last year with the Royals. They're already getting crushed more times than not. And they are deep, deep in last place. Oh boy. Well, hopefully I haven't made you too depressed today. But hey, this wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. Before I go, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. And I'll be back tomorrow to discuss this week's What Is It You Say You Do Here player, along with how the Sox did tonight against the Orioles. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube page at Locked On White Sox. Smash the like button and give a 5-star review on wherever you get your podcasts. Let me know your thoughts on today's topics regarding Nick Nastrini getting roughed up by the Blue Jays, what to watch for in this series against the Baltimore Orioles, and way back Wednesday turning into Throwback Thursday. You can leave them on Twitter at ToddJDub or email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.